to YouTube. We're going to drop the video description in the bottom of the thread over on Twitter. I say we, it'll probably be me. I don't know. That usually backfires because then my computer freezes and then I go bye-bye. But Wednesday episodes are all about what to watch for, bold predictions and score predictions. So get your bold predictions in right now so I can start starring them, include them on the show. I don't think I'm necessarily going to. It says we're not even live. Oh, we're live. Never mind.
No, we're live. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
For what right? I'm just talking and nothing's happening. I was gonna wonder why. Oh, I can't even listen, guys. This is what happens when we're down one person. I have to do this and I can't do it on the fly. But Joey, how are you doing on this cold and blustery Wednesday evening in Denver?
I don't know. I'm currently out with a foot injury. We might get in the injury reports today. Let's start off with Joey Richards. Firstly, I'm out with the foot injury, limping around in my day job. It is out of control. But you know what? I'm always excited to be here talking with you, Bree. Talking Broncos. This is like my favorite thing to do ever. So I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited that the Broncos have like a really competent football team. Really, their offense is kind of off and on this last week, and we'll get into it, was fantastic, but this defense has been lights out the entire year. So I'm excited to see how it match up against what the Baltimore Ravens have to do with their offense. It's just exciting time in Broncos country right now.
I feel like you're alluding to what your what to watch for is going to be. I like it, Joey. There's a little bit of a renewed hope for what the Denver Broncos can do against the Baltimore Ravens, especially. D Bronx got it right. Host of Let's Talk Broncos likes to talk about the Broncos. Wow. Breaking news, kind of groundbreaking stuff from us. Could you imagine if you covered a team and you just absolutely hated them? Like you hated their existence. It would be like, I don't know, moving to Vegas and having to talk about the Raiders. Like you love football, but you're talking about a team you really have no good thoughts about.
That's how like the Paul Finnbaums of the world are born right there. That's exactly what they do. Me personally, Bree, I might even be a better hater podcaster than I am covering the Broncos. If I were to cover the Raiders, I would be blowing up. I would be going crazy online. So I don't hate the business idea of that. Maybe that's something I have to start. Let's talk.
You'd be like, why does Joey guy hate our team so much? They go and they click over to you and they're like, oh, he's not even a Raiders fan. This is interesting. Honestly, we could start a project like that. Like, let's talk shit about the Raiders.
That's my bag. We could start the Let's Talk Shit About the Raiders podcast immediately. We could get that going. I don't care.
I don't know. I'm all in on it. Google Slides is loading right now, so I can get your injury report conversation going. But Joey, do you think that there's any possibility that Lamar Jackson doesn't play on Sunday? I know that he was basically limited / not practicing with what was a core back knee sort of thing. I cannot for the life of me get the slides going. So take it away, Joey. Injury diagnosis for a Lamar Jackson, scaring the fan base of a Super Bowl contention team. I would assume that he plays, but if he doesn't, the Broncos are on kind of a kick here, meeting a bunch of teams that are in disarray, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. Me personally, I don't think there's any way Lamar Jackson misses this game. Even if he does, you're preparing. It changes nothing for how the Broncos are preparing. Harbaugh came out beforehand and said it was a rest day for him. He was listed with a knee. I think a knee. You said it. It was a knee and core, I think, right? A knee and back is what it was. It was a knee and back injury for
back and
Lamar.
knee.
Yep. For the Ravens right there. I just don't see any way it changes anything you're doing on a Wednesday. It really doesn't. If Lamar misses, it's great. I prepared for Lamar and I'm getting a bad quarterback instead. Like it changes nothing at all for me. So it's just I don't see him missing, and even if he does, this is just good news. It changes nothing in the way I'm preparing for the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are at their best when Lamar Jackson's in the game. I don't have to prepare for a different style of football or anything. I'm preparing for Lamar Jackson style football. That's the main worry this week.
That is the main worry. And you're also adding that with a Derrick Henry. Well, I can get the Ravens injury report to you. So we'll do that here. Travis Jones didn't practice. Brent Urban also as well. I don't see anything else on here that's too shocking. And again, there's not a whole lot that you're going to be able to suss out on a Wednesday on how those are trending. But the concussion is probably a likely out for the rest of this week. My neck, my back. I'm not finishing the lyrics, but you get it. Thank you, Deeprams. You always make me laugh. You always bring the levity, and I get distracted and I get off topic. But yeah, I would plan on Lamar Jackson playing. Also, I'm hopeful because he's on my fantasy team, and I need those points. I'm not going to be.
Yeah. Yes. You have Lamar on your fantasy team?
Yeah, for another league, not for the Larry's a stripper.
Okay, good. For anyone that doesn't know, that is somebody in the league. I feel like I have to add context to this.
I don't think they needed the context. I think it was funny regardless.
Anyways, there were a few defensive starters on the injury report that are notable to me. Travis Jones, if you are a big now at LTB_Joey follower, then JR Drafts follower, you know I was a huge Travis Jones fan, so that is a defensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. That's a big deal, and a starter, a guy that plays a lot, along with Nate Wiggins and then Marlon Humphrey, who are their cornerbacks on that team. For a team already really struggling on defense this year, they are super explosive on offense. Their defense is why you're getting some of these losses and why they're kind of in closer games. It's a big deal. You don't want to miss any starters there, especially 3 quality starters. So that's something I'm monitoring on that injury report, Bree.
Are you monitoring it pretty closely there, Joey?
I just, I checked it out when you put it on the screen.
I took a good solid glance at it when I saw it on the screen. Listen, we should be monitoring it. That's a really difficult word to say when you're on the fly and you're already feeling stuttering. I want to move on over to the Broncos injury report that I can't show you physically because I can't get it to load, but that's what happens here. And that's okay. Notable, I know. I am a true professional and I deserve to be here. You've got Mike McGlinchey and PJ Locke, knee and thumb, respectively, not playing or not practicing. Zach Allen was limited, rest day. And then Mike Burtonfoot, DTY, knee limited, but back off the IR. Listen, you need all the bodies you can get. I'm excited about that one. Pat Surtain was listed with an ankle, but he was a full participant. And then Palczewski with an ankle as well, fully practicing. Broncos are maintaining health through the season. It feels like they casted their wish with the genie, or they knocked on enough wood, or they sold another soul to be able to maintain this level of health through this point in the season. I guess, what are your thoughts initially on Wednesday's injury report?
Yeah, not huge thoughts. I think the players that you listed are going to end up playing. Mike McGlinchey had his first game back, so it makes sense that he is on the injury report going into this week. I'd probably want to rest him too. He's your starting right tackle, and he made a huge difference in the run game. So Mike McGlinchey, since he's been back, has made a huge impact on the run game. I think PJ Locke is going to play. I don't have huge concerns there. You put it perfect, Bree. I don't know. It just feels like this last year and this year, since Sean Payton has taken over the head coaching job, the Broncos have hit luck with their injuries so far. And I'm going to knock on wood right now, what you're hearing. It doesn't happen. So I just think they've gotten lucky so far. And I just hope it continues going forward. But anything on there right now isn't that concerning for me.
my God, I had to take over for Zach and I was muted
Bree,
just for
you're
a second
muted,
until I
Seegers.
realized it. I was typing and I didn't want it to get picked up because usually Zach makes a funny face when I start to do that. So I muted myself and I played myself. Here we go. No, I'm not concerned about anything. And by this point, we usually have everyone on a second string notice. Listen, Rock, I'm sorry. Bree mutes us. I hate all of you, and I don't even want to be here. So I'm really,
Me
really
too.
glad.
I can't start the podcast saying I have a foot injury. It was a terrible day, but I'm so excited to be here. And then you just be like, "Hey, no, I don't." We are both extremely excited. Bree, especially, she is. Look at her
How
right
often? How often do I tell you guys where I'm just like, I don't know. That's just my effect. I don't know anything that truly brings me that amount of joy. Atomic 626 said, we have had injuries, just the next man up. Steps
Yeah,
up so far. It's been fortunate. Forsyth, Cody Barton, Alex Palczewski, etc. I think that's a great point, Atomic. I think there's been multiple instances in where the young guy has to come in and step up and be able to do that job at a high level. But I don't know if the discernment from first and second is that large of a gap where maybe that's why it's being underrated. I don't think it's wrong necessarily, but there's a big drop off for a Patrick Surtain injury. You know, when he goes down with that concussion, you
right.
are really concerned about who the next guy is. And so I'm not going to downplay though. Cody Barton, absolutely. Alex Forsyth, Balczewski, all done a great job stepping in and making up that space. I would say to support that there's a well-roundedness. I know there's been a lot of talk that there's not this star player avenue that you see with the Denver Broncos roster, but I think there is a well-roundedness, and you're seeing that with the defense specifically, to be able to be as efficient as they are and to be ranked where they are is just a testament to that. So I think that there is talent, and maybe there's a way in which you start becoming household names. Like a Zach Allen, there's no reason people shouldn't be talking about him in the same conversations with other elite defensive players. So I just want to throw that out there. Ooh, D-Bronx, great question to start this off. And and Zach Seegers is in the chat too. Hi, Zach. How are you? Speaking of Forsyth, do you guys think he's won the starting job? He's looking better than Wattenberg, in my opinion. I think, in my honest opinion, yes, for the time being, it's working with Forsyth. Joey, I'm going to have you describe why necessarily, but I think the Broncos have been able to really get a run game established with Forsyth there under center
Yeah,
or at
Forsyth is
center.
just making less mistakes to me. Like that was the thing with Wattenberg. He would have few, but some good and high quality reps in there. Forsyth is just making less mistakes, though. He's making less mistakes, and he's getting the job done at center. He's not a Pro Bowl caliber player, or I guess you would consider it nowadays an All Pro because the Pro Bowl doesn't matter at all. Type guy. He's not a superstar at the center position, but he's a guy that is currently in there and getting the job done for the Broncos. I do think it's his job. He just looks like the better football player to me right now. I would be shocked to see them go back to Wattenberg after that. I don't know. I never felt like this season like the Broncos were playing Wattenberg because they loved him. I don't know if anyone else felt like that. For me, it doesn't. I don't know how you could have gone through camp without picking up another center. And Wattenberg stole the show there early. It felt like it was Wattenberg's job after very few amount of practices there. And you just were like, that's the guy. I don't think that's the case. So Forsyth's just playing better. I'd be shocked to see them go back to Wattenberg there.
Yeah, I think that it's an opportunity where there would have to be a string and a trend of mistakes that would have you change that once again. Forsyth knows when Nix is under center at least. Thanks, Rock.
Facts.
Good. All right, Joey. I want to get into the what to watch for Sunday's game so we can get the show kind of rolling. We were talking about a little meat of the subject. And you're going to have to bear with me because I didn't write yours down. So I can't be all cool, calm, and collected as I try to talk about what exactly was your what to watch for, but that's what
Oh,
happens here. So,
no, it's all good.
what are you looking forward to?
My what to watch for is just how the Broncos, not necessarily how effective, but I'm curious how the Broncos and Vance Joseph defends the Baltimore Ravens. I think blitzing as much as he has, and then also man-to-man coverage. If you followed any of my CU content, you know this has been a huge talking point for me as CU runs nothing but man-to-man, it feels like. When they play these running type quarterbacks, that man-to-man coverage, it can often lead to quarterbacks breaking out in the run because all of the DB and linebackers and everybody's heads are turned towards the other direction. They're not looking at the quarterback. Um, does this change? Does the Broncos' defensive philosophy change? That is my big what to watch for this game. I'm just curious to see if Vance Joseph is just so hell bent on no, this is what we do. This is what we're good at. Our corners are better than your wide receivers, and yeah, we're just gonna allow Lamar Jackson to run around. Even if we do send a cover zero blitz and he breaks the pocket and there's just nobody out there, we'll live with it because we think we're so much better and more talented on defense. Especially our secondary is than your guys on offense. I just want to know if that happens. And this is true. Defense says Lamar has historically struggled against the blitz, so they might test him with it early. I do agree with this. I would love to know, though, in these situations, what his rushing yards look like. I just know how crazy athlete Lamar Jackson is and how incredible he is at breaking the pocket and making stuff happen after that. If you're in a cover zero situation and every single person's manned up across the board, you have nobody looking at the quarterback. It just seems like Lamar should be able to break off some big runs there. I'm curious, especially in those third and long situations. We played the Ravens in the past, and Nick Benito was a spy in some scenarios. Do we see that again? It wasn't with Vance Joseph, but that is something we saw. So I'm just curious how the Broncos defend the Ravens this next game. Does their defensive game plan change at all?
I don't think you should bank on that necessarily. So I love Rock's comment in a follow up to this. Maybe a bad idea, but Vance is different. What Vance Joseph has been able to do may point in the non obvious direction of maybe you don't try to focus primarily on that. Like the Ravens know that they're not going to be able to beat the Denver Broncos through the air necessarily. At least that would be the riskiest of endeavors. But the Denver Broncos rank 7th in rushing defense. So 106 yards per game. I don't think that it's necessarily either one is going to bode like I don't think you need to change what you're doing in order to go up against this team. Also, what I'm more concerned about there is that the Ravens defense isn't so great. So are the Broncos going to be able to combat that with their offense? I'm not worried about the Denver Broncos defense being able to hang with this Lamar Jackson Derrick Henry pairing. I think they'll do their job. I think that's specifically what they're set out to do and they're built to do. Now you're probably going to see Derrick Henry have a great game. You're probably going to see Lamar Jackson take off if he's, not having any injury carryover. What you really have to do is stay the course. I think that's what the Broncos can do best here. And it would be really interesting, though, Joey, what would Vance Joseph change up in this situation if it's not the blitz? What are you focusing on then more? Is it the perimeter defense? Like what changes or exceptions would you make knowing the mobility of the quarterback and probably the boogeyman when it comes to running backs is setting to face off on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, just like I don't know. It could be anything else. I'm just curious what they defer to. There are multiple strategies to go attack a quarterback like this, right? I've seen defenses play Lamar Jackson, and they're like, we are not allowing him to break the pocket. We are playing complete contain on him on the outside. Please try to break out because it's not going to work. You're going to have to sit in that pocket and throw the ball. And that's kind of the thing with Lamar Jackson is it's a kind of a pick your poison because he is just that good. Which brings me to how do the Broncos defend it? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think Vance if you're asking for my prediction on what he does, I think he just reverts back to what he's done the entire time and what's got the Broncos defense here. I think you're going to see just as much man-to-man as you usually seen. I think you're going to see just as much cover zero blitz packages on third and long situations as you used to see. I don't think there's going to be a huge difference in how he does it, but I'm just interested to see if it does, because we still have yet to play the Chiefs here, Bree. And you know who is really good against those uh cover zero blitz type stuff is Patrick Mahomes. If you blitz him, he's going to eat you alive in his career. That's kind of what he's shown you. So so far the Broncos have stayed course on their defense. They've done the exact type of same stuff every week, not the same blitzes, but you guys know what I mean. Same style defense, game in and game out. Does it change this week when you're playing one of the most explosive offenses in the league? Does your strategy change? I'm just interested to see.
I think your strategy changes a little bit here because the Ravens are pissed. They just lost to the Browns, right? And there's a conversation of the Ravens kind of having that type of game. And it was interesting because I saw individuals talking about the Broncos being that game, right? Where the Ravens blow up their expectations and they give a gimme to a team that's undeserving of that. What's interesting is they were just upset by the Browns, who are in their own state of flux and dysfunction, that I think people are almost underestimating what the Broncos have been able to do. Now, I did joke about it to start the program that they've faced a bunch of these teams going through it, but that's the mark of a team who plays with who's on their schedule and does it convincingly. Bo Nix continues to progress and evolve in a way in which you're not left scratching your head like, oh, well, at least they got lucky there. This Ravens game is sort of a anchoring point for what the thought process of this season is going to be for the Denver Broncos moving forward. There a lot of individuals are in the chat are talking about Henry historically having bad games against the Broncos, but I do love how it was pointed out that the dynamic may change, and I'm just trying to find the comment here, that the dynamic would change when you couple that with a Lamar Jackson. Like you have then a dual threat that becomes a triple threat with Lamar's passing ability because he's not just a mobile quarterback. So yeah, maybe Henry has struggled in the past against the Broncos, but has he faced a Broncos defense that is this in tune and this in sync? I feel like that could continue to be the case here. But Joey, because we're on the topic of conversation, Derek fucking Henry is my what to watch for. No matter how much in the past that he struggled against the Broncos, no matter how much of he's eventually got to slow down somehow. It's not true, and it's not something that I want to get comfortable saying. Leads the way in the league, 946 yards, 9 touchdowns. Heading into week 9, Derrick Henry ranks first in the NFL with I think 11 this season. So I'm wondering if this is the week, and I know we're going to get to bold predictions, and I just want to kind of qualify with the idea that I'm very much so concerned with a Derrick Henry. Do you think I need to be with this Broncos defense?
Absolutely. It's Derrick Henry. Here's the thing, right? So the Broncos have performed historically good against Derrick Henry. Now, I do also think that every year you're kind of bringing in a different defense, especially the Broncos this year. The Broncos this year is a completely different defense, even from a play calling standpoint from last year, right? The players on the defense are completely different. Everything. They're way even more different than the year before that. The Broncos defense has evolved drastically. And I'm not saying that they won't stop Derrick Henry or they won't limit Derrick Henry. They very well could, because this defense is really, really good this year. It is very, very good. The only thing I will say here is that it's still Derrick Henry. This is one of those freak shows, and Bree, you mentioned it, where you were talking about you keep thinking it's going to slow down and it just doesn't. He's reached a level where he's legend status in the NFL now. I was talking to Zach. I wish he was here to have this conversation with me in the group chat with me and you, where I was just like, who's better? And maybe this is a conversation that would be fun for the chat too. Who's better all time? Is it Derrick Henry or Adrian Peterson? He
Well,
has
I think
reached
the
that
conversation,
level.
what's the better though? What's the better concept? Is it well-rounded? Are you even saying Adrian Peterson is the most well-rounded running back? Like what elicits greatness when you talk about a running back? And a lot of it has to do with the namesake of it. When you say Derrick Henry, you think King, one of
King Henry.
opposing running backs that you're ever going to have to face. Like it elicits a reaction. And Adrian Peterson did the same thing. I have such a troubled circumstance of trying to compare eras of players as well. I think that that's important to note when you start comparing players of that caliber. But Joey, in your mind, who takes the cake there?
Of who? What did you say? Of who? Who takes the
Of
cake?
Adrian
Of
with Adrian
AP?
Peterson and yeah, yeah.
I still go AP. He just has more longevity in it. Um, in my debate about, or not even debate, in our conversation about this, because we both didn't have a side. I don't know why I said debate, but the only argument I think I could give Derrick Henry is that Adrian Peterson had a lot more fumbles in his career. If everyone remembers Adrian Peterson, that ball was loose a ton. He fumbled a ton in his career. And that was a big advantage, Derrick Henry. But everything else, I think I got to give Adrian Peterson. I mean, he was playing way late into his career. I'll see if Derrick Henry does the same. But still, like I said, we were talking about a legend. The even fact that I'm having this conversation is pointing to that Derrick Henry is a freak of nature. He hasn't slowed down like a lot of people were predicting. I have to give a big shout out to Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, because I think everyone just looks at Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry like, that is ridiculous. That'll work out. Not necessarily because I think Derrick Henry runs the ball in a certain style. I think Lamar Jackson runs his offense in a certain style, and I don't necessarily think both of those players coincide with each other. I don't think they both work together in all situations, yet Todd Monken is making it where Derrick Henry is ripping off these huge games and Lamar Jackson is an MVP caliber type player this year. So you got to give a big shout out to him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The chat's saying Adrian Peterson. Drop it in the comments if you're watching this after us being live, which what's wrong with you? Set your notifications. Go on over. Let's Talk Broncos over on YouTube. Subscribe, like the channel, or like our video. Every little bit of interaction helps, and we're often in the comments ourselves to have that conversation with you. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. Adrian Peterson, fun fact, was my brother's favorite player growing up, favorite football player. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that he had a jersey, but if I'm misremembering that, I'm sure he'll let me know. Shouts out to Brandon. And I don't know why it was acceptable for my brother to have Adrian Peterson jerseys, but then when I got my Tom Brady jersey, it was as though the earth was melting. It's like it's just
exactly
not.
why, Bray.
I don't
Tom
really
Brady was
want your logic.
dominating. You hated it.
I mean, that's fair, but come on, like it'd be like faulting me. Whose jersey should I have gotten then from a different team? Like, what are we
Literally
talking
anybody
about
else.
here?
Go get yourself anybody. Except for
Okay.
a Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs jersey. Those are the only ones.
Right. But I mean, at that point, I don't know. I would have to date myself if I start throwing out all that other stuff, which I like to keep everybody guessing on where I fall on that spectrum. So we'll move on to bold predictions. Although, Joey, I was gonna bring up the point of I'm trying like you saw the spread, right? We're going to talk about score predictions. We're going to talk about all that stuff a little bit later. But the 9.5 that Vegas is giving, like it feels disrespectful. And this
It's
is a point in the
9.5.
season, yeah, where like the Broncos are almost, I think, plus 350 underdogs. So I get it. It's an away game, but the Broncos are not punks right now. They've won 3 straight road games. And so I don't know. This spreads me. I feel like I'm channeling Zach Seegers at this point. I don't know if he would agree or not, but I feel like this is where this is coming from, where it feels disrespectful. And it's not as though I don't think the Ravens aren't a good team. It has nothing to do with that. But I'm almost like, I don't know. I'm kind of shocked. because the records are the same, are they not? I know that's not saying much. I'm just saying, like, 9.5 points is a lot. I would definitely take the Broncos and the spread in this instance, just because they're giving you so much vig. Like, it's not that far off. So I don't know. I feel a little disrespected by it, but I think that's a good thing, because as long as the Broncos are being kind of underestimated, they have the propensity to continue to shock people. And again, that's not like, I'm not like on top of the world Broncos fan right now, where I'm like, they're infallible and they can't win. No, because the Chiefs would probably pull off a win next week, simply because they're the Chiefs. Like, I'm not rolling with this Broncos won't lose another game. But this is the stretch we're talking about, and 9 points is a lot.
It is an absolute, that's a ton. 9 points is a huge spread. That is crazy. I mean, that is a big spread. I think part of this, though, is also like the thinking. I don't know if this is something I was thinking about before I hopped on the show today, was like, it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of elite teams in the NFL right now. And it does feel like the Ravens,
specifically in the AFC.
yeah. And it does feel like the Ravens are one of them. Like, it feels like it's the Lions, Raiders, or the Lions, Ravens, and Chiefs for me. Like, those are the elite teams in the NFL. And then there's a huge cliff drop from that. If I'm forgetting someone, let me know. That was just off the top of my head, but it could be because of that. Like, I would be curious to see how the Ravens spread would look against other teams that maybe even are wild card-esque.
No, I think that's fair. I think that you highlighted it pretty well. The other teams in the AFC, I just
The Bills, right?
the Bills. I just clicked over to something so I could pull that up to see where they were ranked. So you got Chiefs, obviously, at the top, Texans, Steelers, Bills, Broncos, Ravens is how the actual listing broke down, and that completely distracted me, because now all of a sudden I am feeling full of myself, which is not great, given the fact that I know what happens when this happens. Phil and Zach Seegers. Hello, I don't know who you are,
This
but the
has to
fact
be
that
Muse. No, because Muse is
no,
going too.
Muse is in the chat.
I don't know. Shout out to you, though, whoever this is. This is a great name. You need to come in with this name when Zach's in here, just so it's like a friendly reminder that you're missing shows. So we had to create a name called Phil and Zach Seegers. We might even have you on the show to fill in for Zach Seegers.
Don't promise that. Don't put that out there, because
Paul. Great.
It's Paul.
Paul, great name. This is amazing.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Paul, for that. I needed the laugh. I want to poll the chat, since we've gone off topic. We'll get to your bold predictions. Start dropping them now. Like, start giving me your bold predictions now, because if you don't, I'm not going to talk about them. But you guys like when we go off topic, right? Like, I'm not wasting your time by
tell us.
being absolutely weird right now. You can be honest. This is a Wednesday episode where anything goes, and it's me and Joey. So yeah, let us know what you like to see on Let's Talk Broncos, because sometimes I feel like I'm being distracting, and then I'm like, no, there's a reason that you tune in, and there's probably like good reason, right? You either like it or you spite watch us, and I enjoy a good spite watch. I'm still waiting for Stacey Dash to come back, though. So
I'm inviting all spite watchers into the chat immediately.
If you're a Chiefs, Texans, Steelers, Bills, or Ravens fan, you're spite watching right now, and I want to thank you for it. We appreciate you. Okay, Joey, back to the topic at hand. I got that off my chest. We feel disrespected. We are back. We're going to do Zach's bold prediction first, because he's not here, and we get to make fun of it. Are you ready for this one?
I am ready.
All right. Bo Nix throws plus runs for as many or more touchdowns than Lamar Jackson.
Shout out to Zach. Let me tell you what the best bet in the world is, Brie. Right? The bet you should always take. I didn't even have to hear it. It sounded even crazier when I heard it. But you should always take a Zach Seegers bet. That's something that we should always do. If Zach Seegers has a bet out there, you should take it. You should slam it. That's something we got to do. I'm taking it. I and all jokes aside, I love Zach to death. So everyone knows I'm messing with Zach, but I I have to say that. Lamar
This feels
Jackson is having a
strategic, though.
great year. The Broncos defense is really awesome. They haven't been tested, or the Broncos defense is really awesome. They haven't been tested with an offense like this yet. And then also the Lamar Jackson is just a phenomenal football player. I have to take Zach up on this bet. LTB Muse is telling me to fade it. It is a good one because the Ravens defense on the other side has been really bad. So there is a good chance this happens. Maybe he's predicting a huge Derrick Henry game, which takes away from Lamar Jackson's touchdowns. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what his score prediction is at the end after this. Is he picking the Broncos to win? That's something that I'm going to be curious to see.
Well, what's interesting is that Zach is opposite of mine for the score prediction and result, because my understanding of this is that it's possible, given my understanding of this game being closer, much closer than Vegas anticipates, but by three or less points. So it's in line. So Zach's thinking's in line, and this bold prediction is in line with that, given his score prediction. I'm not going to spoil it here, and I'm honestly just trying to talk myself into whether or not I truly believe in this bold take, but I feel like his strategy is always to confuse me enough to where I make the wrong decision purely because I don't remember which answer I'm supposed to give. So Bo Nix having, and I love how he qualified it that it will be rushing or passing touchdown. So, you're covered there, because I don't think Bo Nix is necessarily that far off from being that type of threat as well. I'm not saying Bo Nix is a Lamar Jackson type player. I'm saying that there's still the enviability of him to be able to pull some crazy plays off like that. And maybe he has 2 rushing touchdowns. I don't know. Oh, it's bold, but it's not too bold, but it's bold enough. If I take the bet, then that means I think Lamar Jackson will have more touchdowns, but then that goes against what my prediction is going to be for the scores, right?
Not necessarily. Maybe, well, I don't know which way you're going with it, but I don't think necessarily. I think if you're picking the Broncos to win, I don't think Bo needs to have more touchdowns than Lamar necessarily.
No, because then that opens it up for, you know what? I agree with this bet, so I'm not going to.
You're gonna fade it.
I'm gonna fade it. Yeah.
All right, you agree with it. Zach doesn't get one. That is going to be a free point for me.
That's fair. I just apologize to Zach Seegers when he has to tally this up, because I'm going to be like, I don't remember what I said, and he's just going to have to deal with it. Joey Richards, we were talking about this to start, because I think there is a conversation of who and what is going to be the foil to a Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry endeavor. And there's a specific player on the Denver Broncos roster who from 10 career interceptions. Now, going one specific player is too bold, and it usually bites me in the butt unless I'm picking Justin Simmons. But I'm going, any Denver linebacker is going to have a turnover, whether it be an interception or a fumble recovery. So they would have to any linebacker. I was going to go Quan Alexander, just so everybody knows. He's one away from having 10 career interceptions. But I think that it's bold enough to pick the positional group that it would be too bold. But I do think that there's a lot of talent within that unit. And I think that it is their time to shine a little bit, right? So if you're already trying to force Lamar Jackson through the air, but you're not targeting Pat, you're not aiming out there in the secondary, you're not going bold with your targets, you're keeping it safe, you're trying to check it down, you're getting intercepted by Jonah Ellis. I just think that there's some other things that are going at play. I know he's not a linebacker. I'm saying like there's going to be someone else who's making these waves. It's going to be a strip sack or a forced fumble with a recovery, or it's going to be an interception by a linebacker.
Yeah, this one's interesting to me, Bree, because Lamar throws so much over the middle of the field, right? So that's something that is a big point with what you're saying too. Cody Barton is a guy that's always kind of an interception threat. He's a really good cover linebacker.
He's always got hands on it.
Yeah, I don't think that's something that can be disputed. It's just I've always come here on the show and said once you start stacking the things, so now we have turnover and it has to be by a linebacker. So once you start adding these things up, I'm always going to take you on it. It's like you're parlaying the bets on the podcast. I'm not into the parlay.
That isn't the same thing though, Joey. I'm going to challenge that. And it doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with the standings or how bold my prediction is. But the thing is that it's not like I'm like, and it'll be an interception plus there will be 2 touchdowns by the defense. Like I'm saying, I'm being bold with the linebacker position.
You are.
There's of course going to be a turnover. There's absolutely going to be an interception or a fumble recovered by the Broncos. Like I could almost bet. Okay, I don't love the hand gesture that you're making because it's my hand gesture. I don't know. Muse is being wildly bold over here. Is it bold? If someone said Nick Benito won't get a sack on Sunday, yeah, I think that's bold.
I don't think that's very bold. No, I mean it is. It is because the Ravens offensive line, since they started moving their tackles to guards in situations like that, hasn't been amazing. Lamar sometimes he tries to create so much that he will create his own sacks on occasion, but no, I don't think this is bold enough. I would fade you on this one, LTB Muse. Shout out to you though. I love that.
Yeah. Do you? I don't think you actually do. Yeah. Drew's bold prediction is Bill will have more rushing touchdowns than Henry. So that means King Henry could have 0, and Bo Nix could have 1, which I think is possible. But I'm going to fade it, man. I don't know why. I'm going to take it because taking it means I don't want it, right?
No,
yeah, I'm betting against that.
You do taking it means you're taking the bet. This is the bet that I'm putting my money on. Is what that means.
Yeah, I'm putting my money on this bet.
Okay. No. I think this is a really good one, by the way. This is a really, really good one. I think as the further we get into the season and the closer we get to just becoming a playoff team, if that continues to happen, the more I think you see Sean Payton willing to put his quarterback in situations that he may not have if the season wasn't as important, right? I think in the red zone, Bo's legs are an asset. If you have a running quarterback and you can get that +1 in the blocking game, that's a big deal. And the more the season drags along, as this is important, we can make the playoffs. The more you probably see stuff like that happen. If the Broncos sucks right now, I wouldn't advocate to say, "Hey, run Bo all the time." But we're a pretty good football team, so why not?
Yes, why not? Atomic 626 said bold takes Broncos receiver will have 2 touchdowns. Listen, Atomic, super bold because my bold prediction was going to be Courtland Sutton has a touchdown, just 1 singular, right? I think it's time. And a fun little stat that I found today, Courtland Sutton has scored a touchdown in 6 of the Broncos' last 7 games as road underdogs against AFC opponents. Feels like perfect in prime time for Mr. Fancy Feet. But 2 touchdowns. I don't know, like, who's the receiver who's getting 2 touchdowns? And maybe it is. Maybe it's Courtland Sutton's game. Like, we don't know. That's just super bold. I can't in good faith say that will happen. It makes me nervous.
This is a Broncos receiver will get 2 touchdowns. It is, but it kind of coincides with my bold a little bit. So maybe Atomic and I are in the same case right there. Bree, can I give my bold real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because you set it up so eloquently.
Thank you. Segues. I'm practicing. Um, my bold is that a single Broncos receiver, not just a single, I don't know why I said single, but one of the Broncos wide receivers at least goes over 100. I might add something to it because I'm feeling it right now. You know what? We're on the pod. I'm podcasting. It's bold predictions. I'm gonna go over 100 in 10 yards this game. A Broncos wide receiver will go over 110 yards this game. I think we looked at the injury report. They have 2 corners on there. Even if they don't miss, their defense has not been good this year, Bray. Bo Nix had his best game against the Panthers. Yes, it was against the Panthers. We all agree. Not very good. The Ravens defense isn't very great either, though. I do think the Broncos find a way, after being challenged from Sean Payton this week, to get a good game in. One of these guys steps up and has a good game. So I'm going to go 110 yards. Bold prediction. That would be the number 1 this season from a Broncos wide receiver in yards. What do you think?
Joey, I have a question. How?
What?
How does a defense, not naming any names, Baltimore, how are they first in rushing defense with 70 yards per game and 32nd in passing defense at 291 and some change? I
will tell you, Bree, it's because they suck at covering the pass. So why run? Anyways.
Yeah. You sweeten the deal a little bit. I was anticipating 100. You're going 110.
110.
We got the chat feeling the receiver endeavor here. Listen, the tight ends had their day. It's over for them. It's going to be wide receivers moving forward. God. 110. What's the highest that it is good? It's a good bold prediction. It's enough to make me squeamish. But is this the anticipatory game where the Broncos they just have offensive output out the behind? I don't know. This is where I'm getting stalled out on. It's no longer about strategy. I don't care anymore about where I fall on the score predictions, on the bold predictions, breakdown, although I'll let everybody listening know that I am winning there. So there's that.
What do you say?
I am going going to take the bet.
That's amazing. She takes the bet. It's another W for Joey.
I'm trying to understand though that deviation of what's happening there. And I understand total yards necessarily, right? What are the circumstances that has brought the Baltimore Ravens into those situations, right? Where you're not concerned so much about yards that you're allowing, you're concerned about the time of possession and other things are at play. But I still feel like that deviation is wild to me, especially for a team that's looking to compete in the Super Bowl. I feel like at a certain point, that's going to bite you in the ass. And maybe it's on Sunday. Samuel Castro wants to know, and we wonder as well, Sam, do you guys think the Broncos make a trade before the deadline? Joey, what's your final determination here?
I don't think so. I don't think they do. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they did make a move. I don't think it's going to be a massive move. I don't see them. I know there's a lot of talk about trading Courtland Sutton. I just don't see it. I even know some of the people in LTB think that they would benefit from trading a Courtland Sutton. Like it's not a big deal. And you know what? That's kind of why we put all these people together, because everyone has such different opinions, and it's fun. I want to bring all sides of the Broncos universe onto one podcast, except the stupid ones. Anyways, I do think that we stay put. I just don't see it being very beneficial to trade for a guy necessarily in the trade market. I don't think we're buyers. I don't necessarily think we're sellers either. So why not just stay put, see what you have, see how good your football team is. It was never about winning or going all in on this season anyways. It's about evaluating Bo Nix. I don't necessarily want to take away from Bo Nix, but I don't want to trade picks for a guy that is an older player to help Bo Nix this season in specific. It would have to be a player that makes sense going into the future for him. And I don't know how many teams are just willing to trade young and good wide receivers or young and good players just generally. It's usually a
I can't
guy
believe
that's coming up on a contract year. It's usually a guy that's older and he's looking for a new place to win now. I don't think the Broncos fit this scenario where they're a bye team right now. I don't see it.
Do you think the Broncos were in on Deontay Johnson? I'm sad that I didn't bring that up to start the show, obviously, but is it are you is there anyone out there that you're like, okay, but if they made it happen, I wouldn't be mad about it?
I mean, yeah, like if they somehow pulled a blockbuster move off for a young, really good wide receiver or something, or young, really good tight end, something like that, I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. And I'm not willing to put all my eggs in the basket yet to even be like I'm trading 2 first-round picks for an amazing player to help Bo Nix. I'm not there yet. I still want to see more from him. I want to see how this year ends. And at the end of this year, I might be more willing to make a huge move like that.
But what if you're setting them up for success for next season? What if you don't over qualify the draft picks and you do get that star player that you can start building or putting those pieces in place where Bo Nix has every opportunity to succeed. You've seen enough out of him this season, in my opinion, where you can start getting pieces. And I'm on the train of don't make any moves by this trade deadline, right?
Yeah.
But if that was the thought process, I don't think I could be mad at it. We talk so much about draft picks and where it gets you, but overvaluation is a thing as well. I just there's moves and they're not right or wrong necessarily, but they do pan out with consequences. I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to say is there could be an acquisition that could really set the motion and the chain reaction of success going for years to come, right? Because Joey, I agree with you. If they did, it would have to be a young player who could continue to develop in Denver because it sounds like and it's looked like from the roster moves that they've made that they're willing to do that now, which they haven't always been willing to do so in the past.
I agree, Bree. I just don't know if now is the time. Like I just feel like you can accomplish the same situation in the off season, probably when you get to have more options available to you. Guys are going to be available via trade and free agency or draft. And you really get a look at the ground and be like, hey, we have all these guys available. How do we improve our team? Because it's not win now yet, and I'm still going to be able to evaluate him next season, and that's really going to be Bo Nix's put up or shut up season.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to like, why not just wait when I have all these draft picks? If I want to trade one to get a guy, players are going to be available. If I want to just go out and sign a guy for money, I can do that too. I can. I just don't think in today's NFL it's that hard to improve upon a wide receiver core that currently looks like the Broncos. If I'm being honest, there's not a more loaded position in the NFL right now than wide receiver. There's guys that'll talk about it, and this is just evidence of that. That if you go to a high school like type of situation, you're like, and you're famous. I need all my wide receivers and cornerbacks to pull up. We're all running one-on-ones. You might get 50 cornerbacks, and you might get 200, 300 wide receivers that show up.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, and
Yeah.
that just breeds a different competition or a different type of player at the wide receiver. The cream rises to the crop. Meanwhile, a lot of these wide receivers at that level are having to switch over to cornerback, which is why you get a guy like, do you remember Brian Langley, who was just a complete height, weight, speed guy,
Uh-huh.
still
Yeah. Just
drafted early
physically.
because
Yeah.
he was just physically imposing, and we need corners like that in the NFL. It's not the same with wide receiver. There's plenty of talent. So, yeah.
That's an interesting concept. So you're saying that, well, I think that's a conversation for later. I'm going to fall down a rabbit hole if I continue to ask the questions there. But Joey, you highlight a great point there. maybe not the moves that you need to be making right now. If something fell into the Broncos' lap, then it would be a different story, but it's dependent on what it would cost them at this point. And I think it's okay to be a little trigger shy there, especially what the Broncos have done up until this point. If you take the last 3 years and look at that type of change in capital, it makes anyone a little bit hesitant on making those types of moves.
Yeah.
But I think it's trending in the right direction that we can even have these conversations, because I think if Bo Nix looked bad, bad, then the conversation would be an entirely different clip and temperature and temperament. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be like, absolutely not. We're going to need those. Like, instead, it's, it's looking pretty decent and there's still improvement to be had. But I think as we continue to see how this roster develops, it will tell us a lot more moving forward. Michael Talbot has just joined us here. Yes, we can shock them. I assume he means shocking the Baltimore Ravens and their fans. So welcome to the program, Michael Talbot. We're finishing up our bold predictions here on the show. We're going to fancy on over to score predictions. Listen, I've forgotten a lot of what we're talking about tonight because it's just been just constant. I told you Zach and I were opposites. I'm going to stay with what I had. I'm going to read Zach's as he has, but start dropping your score predictions. We're at that time in the program. Tell us who wins and tell us by how much, because 9 points is still disrespectful. Zach's score prediction is 27-24. He is going Ravens. And I think this is a game that the Broncos are going to have to work so diligently to convince us that they deserve this win. Like, it will take minimal mistakes. It will take the defense firing on all cylinders, which I'm not worried about. It'll take the offense being able to put up 27 points. I'm not worried about the defense keeping them to 24. I just think there's going to be an offset with how diligent the Ravens run game is and how Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are going to pair together. So Zach and I are counterbalancing each other. So it'll be interesting to see how that breaks down. But Joey, where have you landed with your score prediction?
So I'm also, I hate to do it. And for all the people on Twitter, when we drop our score predictions graphic, you can't say our whole graphic was all Broncos. Now we're screwed. You can't do that whole thing. It's funny that happens because I used to do that same thing to people. I think it's funny. But I'm going to go a point more for the Ravens than Zach did. There's a little strategy involved here, I will say. I'm trying to climb that ladder on the score prediction the thing, which Zach is cheating on, I think. I don't have faith yet, but I think he's cheating on.
Joey,
I'm going
I think
28.
it's just math.
I don't have any evidence whatsoever. I haven't done the math to figure it out. I just think Zach's cheating. I'm going Ravens 28-24. I think it's a very competitive game. I just think the Ravens pull it out. And the Broncos cover the spread. That's something I want to point out too, because every time we pick a different team to win, I'm not taking the money line. I'm taking the Broncos spread though. I still am.
Yeah, obviously. I'm still gonna, I'm gonna put my money on the Broncos because I like that line too much. But the spread, absolutely. Like, I would have to think, unless something miraculously goes wrong. But I don't know. I'm feeling too good as a Broncos fan. That always spells disaster, especially this time of year. But the Ravens, the Chiefs don't look that scary right now. They looked scary to start the season.
Yeah.
It's looking a little like, I don't know, we could eke it out. Atomic 626 says 33-27 Broncos.
I like it.
He's going the over. Muse says 24-16 Broncos. If you get your score predictions in, you're going to be averaged out with your fellow listeners, and you'll be listed on the LTB score prediction ranking. You can check that out over on the LTB podcast over on Twitter, and then follow us while you're over there, because you're checking out how you guys are doing in the standings. And if you're watching this post live, put your score predictions in the comments and we will average those out as well. And every time I say we, I mean Zach Seegers. So give him some work to do by commenting your score predictions. If you're picking the Ravens, that's fine. This is a football podcast. We just happen to talk about the Broncos. Doesn't mean that we're not talking about the probability or possibility of them losing. Samuel Castro said, I think the Broncos will win 26-24. He's got it super close. Muse has given us the over-under at 46.5. That's a okay one. I think that's fine. Drew's saying 30-27 Broncos. Man, we got a Broncos run going on here.
I love it. Hey, shout out to you guys. Shout out to Atomic. He's been messaging me about stuff with the draft. I love talking about the draft. If any of you guys want to message me about the draft, I'm always here for it.
Please DM LTB_Joey for all of your LTB needs. You can also send all of your hate mail to Zach_Seegers. And you can find me over there, but my DMs are not open. Man of Doom says 23-16 Ravens. There we go. Setting it off a little bit here. Talbot says, realistically, I think the Ravens win because they're looking to bounce back after Cleveland. Listen, Michael, that's what I was saying to start the show. They're angry. They were shocked by the Browns. This is like a team that's going to be out for this isn't happening again. And then Michael said, and then we turn around and we take it out on KC. I like that. If the Broncos could come away with one win out of this 2-game stretch, you're feeling pretty damn good as a Broncos fan. So I just want to throw that out there. Happy Halloween to you, Samuel Castro. Go Broncos, everybody.
What are we doing here?
We should have. I even asked Matt. I was like, hey, can I grab the Jets helmet for the show from the gym?
I would have.
And then it's the thing is so heavy. And every time I put it, I have a picture of me wearing it. And I'm like laying down because it is so heavy. It is like the heavy old school, not too old school. I'm not calling you old, dear. But yeah, I meant to grab it and then I forgot. So I didn't have it. So
that would have been so funny. I don't even know if Bree's head could have stood up straight. It would just been like
I mean, the whole thing is like it's so big. Yeah, I would have been like a baby. Not being able to hold my neck up.
That would have been so funny.
I'm mad I didn't do it. I'm gonna have to randomly just wear it. I'm gonna have to remember to grab it because it's hanging up. Yeah, hilarious. We should have dressed up, but maybe we'll post more old school LTB Halloween pics. We appreciate you, and we'll be back. Don't forget to watch Altitude Adjustment if you forgot. Go check out the Monday show if you so feel obliged. More content coming at you soon. Joey, when's the next Buff show?
Thursday. Make sure you're well, actually, it's going to be Friday morning. Carter and I are going to record Thursday, and we're going to release it Friday morning. Shout out to everyone who listens to our Buff content. It's been doing really well. A ton of listeners, not a lot of subscribers. Please subscribe to Let's Talk Buffs on YouTube. I looked and our audience is like, I don't know. This is like 45% 60-year-old guys. Shout out to all of you. I'm happy I'll be here to provide you Buffs content.
I love it. We love all of our demographics here at Let's Talk Broncos /Buffs. Michael Talbot.
I love it.
Thanks for finding us. Make sure you subscribe so you can find us again. Mondays and Wednesdays with the trio Altitude Adjustment. On Tuesdays, you got Full Field Read. You have the Buff Show. You have everything. It's wonderful. We appreciate you guys. We love you. And have a great night. Go Broncos. We'll see you Sunday.